Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Sever7, and today we're looking at the Piratech Tsunami, formerly known as the Kraken. That's with the ultimate goal of seeing if this is worth adding to your collection or your daily carry rotation. Now, this was sent to me by Piratech per my request for review, and this was designed and OEM'd by Piratech. Now, this knife has a few things that are super interesting about it. We're going to get through some of the more basic stuff first, and then we're going to jump into it. So, looking at the scales, we've got a really nice stone wash. Very much so like a user's finish, because as it scratches up, it just kind of builds character over time, so I really enjoyed that. Smooth titanium, really nice subtle Kraken just chilling at the top with all of his arms. It's actually super cool looking. I really enjoy it. If they had a version that came without this, I would want this. I think it's super cool looking. It's like having a little pet just chilling. We do have a deep carry milled titanium reversible pocket clip. It's got a little filler tab right here. It's super easy to swap. I'll show you how in just a second. But overall, it's a minimalist design, but kind of a classy design too, right? One of those knives that can be, a date night knife or office carry. It just kind of fits the bill for whatever you need it to. Now let's talk about these scales. So what's unique about these scales is they're swappable, changeable, which I think means the same thing, and they're also magnetic, which is probably the coolest thing ever. So you have this little filler tab right here, and you would just pop that out, put the pop this scale off, and then reverse the filler tab and the pocket clip. Now it's got some oil, but while it's open like this, you have direct access to the springs. They're not adjustable. They don't need to be. You have your pivot screw. Cleaning it out is super easy. And while it's open, it's still fully functional because all we did was take off the scale. Now, the reason they do this is because there are, from Piratech, there are a ton of different options as far as scales go. They've got lightning anno. They've got crystal titanium. They've got full zirconium scales, which look super good. And then, of course, you can get this in a DLC, like a shiny DLC variant, which is awesome. Now, to put the scale back on, this is how I do it. I'm a little goofy. I just like to set the knife on top of it. And then voila, it's on. It's there. And we're fully functional. Now, the magnets for these scales are incredibly strong. And I don't mean strong like you can't pull them off, you just watch me do it. But I mean strong as in like, I could throw this knife across the room and the scales wouldn't come off. Like you can't shake them off, they're not gonna slip off. The thing that's holding them in place is one, the tight fitment from the machining, but also the magnets that they have underneath the scales to hold them in place. So like, they're not coming off unless you intentionally maneuver the scale to slip it off the crossbar. You break the magnet tension. Like it takes meaningful effort, right? If I handed this, not that I ever would, but let's say I handed this to like a 9-year-old and said take the scales off, they wouldn't be able to. Not unless they watched you do it a million times. But like they would just sit here and they would pull and they would pry and like nothing would happen. Because the scales are on pretty dang tight. Now, let's talk a little bit about the ergonomics. So we have a neutral handle and we have a what I call a recommendation, right? This chamfered area. So I can get a full 4-finger grip. I can hammer fist it if I need to. We have jimping that goes halfway out the blade. It is functional, so I can lock in. But I've got plenty of room with my large size hands. And I mean, if you've got bigger hands than me, I mean, there's still room left back here, right? So if you were an XL, I imagine you'll be just fine. If you're a 2XL, you're probably at the limit. And if you're 3XL, you're a giant. You're not a man, you're a monster. I don't mean that. 3XL handed people, I don't mean that. So it's very comfortable. No hot spots, pocket clip, nice and neutral. And it's long enough that it lands right in the middle of my hand, which there's whenever you're holding onto your knife, there, for me at least, there's always like a pocket where I'm holding the knife, but there's like a little dead zone in my hand where I don't feel anything. Like I don't feel the knife, right? Because I'm holding the knife here and here. So it's like in the middle of my hand right here. The pocket clip doesn't even touch me, which means there's no hot spot whatsoever, right? So I think the pocket clip placement is perfect. And overall, it's just really easy to use, really comfortable. They even have this little spot right here. What that allows you to do is get up for any precision cutting that you might have to do, your draw cuts. Right here, this pinch up spot gives you total control of that tip. So I feel like I could draw a picture with this tip, right? It's that precise. Like if I had to quickly perform surgery on somebody to save their life and I had to pick a knife to do it, I would pick this one because that I have the most control over this knife versus any other knife that I've had, right? And it's because of this little poon right here. Reverse poon, I'll call it. Now, as far as the blade goes, we have CPM S90V listed at 61 plus or minus 1 HRC, which is fine for S90V. We have hand satin flats, and then we have belt satin for the grind. Looks really nice, really classy, nothing crazy going on. Although I do want to wipe this blade off a little bit. Should have wiped it up before I started. What's really impressive though is the functionality of this blade shape. It behaves as though it has a belly to it, even though it really doesn't. And they accomplish that just by having this curve upwards towards the tip. It's not a dramatic curve, it's very slight, but it lends itself towards slicing more so than one might think, considering it doesn't have like a big belly. But also because of the tip placement, any poking tasks, anything like that, like probably the most aggressive thing I've done with this knife was open a bag of dog food. But you know how like bags of dog food are kind of thick? It's got like 4 layers of like paper and whatever, basically like malleable cardboard. But it was easy as all get out. And don't get me wrong, most knives can cut through a bag of dog food. Like I'm pretty confident almost any knife I have is going to do that. But what made this different was just how easily it went in. And then whenever I started to cut open, usually I'll get like, normally I do it with my Civivi brazen, and the poke in will be really easy, but then the slice I get a little caught up, and I might slice like bounce from here to here, right, on either side of that tip while I'm doing it. And it's not a big deal. It still does the job. It's slightly annoying, but with this knife here, it was just like butter, right, in, down, out. And I know that's a super niche thing, but I think it's important to highlight how, at least for me, this blade behaved differently than what I expected it to for the better. Now let's jump into the action of this knife. So I'm not a crossbar guy. I just don't care for them. I've tried many. Some are better than others. I just don't care for crossbar locks. And that's because they have mushy action, right? Some of them pull off the acoustics. Some of them you can adjust the spring tension, and I've tried that, right? Because there's crossbar knives out there that look really, really good. The Hogue Misto, for example. That's a very high-end and premium crossbar lock. But it didn't have adjustable springs, and the detent was it didn't have a detent, right? It just had spring tension. I'm saying that to say this uses piano wire and something called swan springs. I know what piano wire is. I'm not sure what a swan spring is, but with whatever combination of those materials, this knife feels fantastic. And I don't mean it feels fantastic for a crossbar lock. I mean, this knife feels like it has a detent like a liner lock or a frame lock. So normally, whenever you deploy a knife, you have to overcome the detent. And then, as the knife travels up, it doesn't have anywhere near the same resistance as it did whenever you first deployed it, and then it locks out. Well, this knife right here, you have to overcome what feels exactly like a detent, but then from here up, like on the outward swing, there's virtually no tension. So you get, just like with a frame lock, you have the majority of your tension front loaded, and then you deploy the knife and then it swings open. So this knife doesn't feel good for a crossbar lock. It just feels like it has really great action for a knife in general. Yeah, that action's just fantastic. And it's like you go to deploy and it's like right here. That click, that's where the detent is. And then it goes. It's so satisfying. I'm talking restored my faith in crossbar locks satisfying. Now, no other company that I'm aware of is using this combination of materials, so I'm not saying I'm going to go out and buy a bunch of crossbar locks. But, you know, if Piratech wanted to sell, because they already sell different scales, but like if they wanted to sell different blade shapes, I'd be down for that. If that were the case, if I could get like a Tonto or a drop point blade, and then just attach it to my scales, that would be super slick. Or I could buy like I don't know, say like a Tonto with zirconium scales, and then I could swap them out, right? So I could have, let's say I wanted to rock with this blade shape but wanted the Zerk scales, I swap them out. And the next day, let's say I wanted to roll out with the, you know, Tonto or the Warncliffe or whatever the other blade shape I bought was, and I wanted to rock it in these stonewash scales because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of work that day, then I could just swap them out. I think it would be awesome if they sold different blade shapes. Now, I don't know how convoluted or difficult that would be. I have no doubt that something that's crossed their minds. Maybe they have plans to do it, maybe they don't. No idea. This is just me flying off the cuff here, going a little crazy about the idea of being able to get different blade shapes, because that would be super slick. Back to the action, though. Let's check out the acoustics. Yeah, on the way up and the way down, the acoustics are great. It's got a very reaffirming snap whenever it locks up. And then on the way down, the acoustics aren't incredible, except for whenever I can get it to do a double bounce. Then it's like a big surprise. I don't know how I do it, but sometimes there's like a little where it goes, it hits and then pops up just a hair and then hits again. And it's like a and that's always cool. But yeah, overall the action, yeah, 10 out of 10. They did a great job. So as far as the specs go, overall length is 7.63 inches. Our blade length is 3.22 inches. We have a blade to handle ratio of 0.73, which on this knife doesn't look bad at all. And then we have an overall weight of 4.16 ounces. Now, I don't know why I was tripping up on the ounces just there. Let's do size comparison. Up against the milled aluminum Civivi Brazen, third best Civivi ever made, next to the Visions. And the Brazen is going to beat it out by, looks like half an inch, maybe a little less. Up against the real steel Sylph. And it's beaten the Sylph out by just a little bit. Maybe just guessing, maybe a third of an inch. And then the best budget knife of the year so far, the Migron Gotov. And it looks like we're coming in quite a bit bigger than the Gotov. So overall, full-size knife, not huge, but a good size. Now, what's the price on this bad boy? So this version here comes in at $300. That is not an insignificant amount of money. $300 is a lot, even for a pocket knife. But whenever we put this knife up against its realistic competition, which is kind of hard to say, but other knives in the price range, right? Other $300 knives. What sets this aside from those is the innovations that have gone into it, right? I mean, plenty of companies will sell you titanium and S90V anywhere from, I don't know, I've seen it from $200 to $350, right? And that's typically fine. But with the swappable scales, with the unique customization that this knife affords you with those swappable magnetic scales, the action that they're able to create with the piano wire and swan springs, this is one of those knives that it just feels different, where you have to have it in hand to really understand what makes this knife unique. You also have to like the way it looks, which for me, this looks like a cross between a Sebenza and an Osborne, right? A Benchmade Osborne. Not in a copy way, but just in a, that's what it harkens to, right? Some of those classic knives. I love the way this looks. But yeah, with the customization, the action, like there was no shortcuts taken when making this knife. And that's something that you can feel. It just feels like they did everything they possibly could to make this the best knife they possibly could at $300. And it shows. I mean, it's super slick looking. It's super smooth to operate. The action feels incredible. And if you're, if you're a tinkerer, if you want to get into it, pop the scales off. If you want to dress it up, pop the scales off. If you just want to see how it functions with the scales off, F it, pop the scales off, right? So, I would say yes. This one is absolutely worth it for the $300 price tag. The DLC variant is $325, so a very small bump in price to get the DLC. So tell me down in the comments, is this a collection piece or is this going to be a daily user? I can tell you for me, it's a daily user all day. I've had this in for, I don't know, maybe a week now. And it's the first thing I grab, not just because it's a new knife, because I get plenty of new knives from like the pass around and stuff like that. So the new knife thing wore off, but it's still kind of been my go-to. And it's been a delight to use. So let me know down in the comments what this knife would be for you. Outside of that, if you found the review helpful or entertaining, don't forget to hit the like button. Please subscribe. Until the next time, guys, peace.